All right. All right. What's up? What's up? Again, thanks to DJ Buck for the intro.
Buck, buck.
Appreciate you, brother. Um, we're back to what used to be navigating racial waters, but is now on the current
On the current.
OTC. Um, Truth be told, we were worried we might be scaring some people away with the title. In case you were wondering why, that's why. Also,
Anytime I told somebody to look it up, say, "Oh, look at, oh, what's it called? Navigated racial."
mhm,
Oh, so,
mhm.
so you had that reaction just at the title. Never mind having to take the time to look it up.
Also, shout out to my guys at the Fairhaven Fire Department. They've always been good to me, when I was running and everything. And so when I was on the board, we did a lot of events together. Did a what was it, haircuts and back haircuts and school supplies event. Not this past fall, but the fall before. Done a lot of things together. They do a lot for that community. So
You do a lot for
shout out to
Fairhaven
them.
too, don't you?
I mean, I try.
Oh,
I don't say I do as much now, but
right, because you're not involved in government now. But
yeah, but I certainly make sure to speak up for injustice.
when was the last time you spoke up on injustice in Fairhaven?
Oh, that would be this past Tuesday.
Uh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, so the town of Fairhaven,
Do share.
Massachusetts, was they were in the course of letting go or parting ways with their town administrator. There were a series of events that had taken place where one, they weren't going about it in the right process, considering, not to get too into the weeds on, the technical minutia of how government works, but there was a motion made to negotiate with her when I was still the chair of the board. And so, in order to act in another manner, you have to have a motion to reconsider. They never did that. So, they had done things to get rid of her, but they never changed that motion. So, they were acting a bit out of pocket. There were also some things that she had uncovered. So it appeared that not only was there retaliation by them, by the board itself, but also by the law firm that was representing the town. So I just felt like I had to speak on that matter, is what it came down to. And yeah, I went before the board. Um, and a gentleman by the name of Keith Sylvia yielded his time to me so that I wasn't limited to the 2 minute limit that is typically associated with public comment, and said what I had to say. There was some, initial awkwardness that seemed to be, and some giggling, and didn't really care for the activity that
Not by
went on around
everyone.
it. No, nope, nope, nope. Just by the chair. Everybody else was very, respectful and what have you. And so, thanks to them for listening, and we'll see what happens from there. But I went before them and said what needed to be said. I didn't address any of the racial things that kind of led to what I feel is why they're acting, or the lack of appreciation or give a shit by a lot of people who in the town who claim to be very liberal and progressive but aren't. One of the things that I've said with regard to the South Coast in general, but specifically South Coast, Massachusetts is an area within Massachusetts. But specifically that town, the town of Fairhaven, is that when it comes to progressive issues, they care about LGBTQ plus issues, they care about disability, they care about women. But when it comes to people of color, it's like, we'll
They
leave
not
that.
like us.
Yeah,
They not like
exactly.
us.
We'll leave that to the people on the other side of the bridge in New Bedford, Mass. And it's something that I've called out a few times. Some people have been mad. They're like, "Oh, you're putting aside these things and the disability, and there are people of color in those communities too." And it's like, yeah, but there are concerns that represent exclusively people of color, and so you need to be able to call yourself progressive or liberal. Like, you got to care about all those things, not just the ones that represent people who look like you
The
or
ones
people
that
who
make you
grew up.
feel comfortable in
Exactly.
representing.
And they would always be like, "Oh, we've never had a racial issue in this town." Well, you
Hey,
never had a
nobody
person of
here
color.
in this town.
I was like, that is always the funniest shit in the world. Like, we've never had that issue before. It's like, well, you've never had anybody. You're like, you're a 97, 98% white town. Of course you didn't. But, what do I know? I'm just a black man.
In their town.
In their town who served in the highest office
Mhm.
in the town and relinquished that by choice. I was not elected out. I was not pushed out. I was not recalled. I just chose that my time was better spent with my family, and also that I would be able to represent, the needs of the people who need them better without the restrictions that come with being in a political office.
Mhm.
There are things you can't say or do or what have you because of the office you hold, especially when you're a person of color.
Mhm.
And so, as an independent entity, I can address those things.
Well, I watched the video of you speaking, and I thought you conducted yourself incredibly professional while getting across your points. Um, and what you just said a moment ago, you said they gave you the respect of listening. And no, really, no, because they sat and they listened to what you had to say. Uh, I don't know if you've seen on YouTube all this stuff in Dalton, Illinois. The super mayor, Mayor Tiffany Henyard, she's like the
Mm.
youngest mayor in the country. When they have their town meetings, it's chaos.
Oh,
When they
wow.
give people those 2 minutes, they go over the 2 minutes. Um, some people just spend their time with their emotions and they don't get to the point where they want to get to.
Mm.
Um, but no, I watched you conduct yourself and dealing with folks, and they did give you that respect of listening.
Mhm.
You had to point out the one who said, I'm not here for jokes, and I know that shook that person up. And but yeah, you did very well, man, and as usual, I was very proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
It's like, it was an important thing. It was, it was very important. And so I wanted to make sure that I got my points out. I
Hmm.
didn't want to, ramble too much
Hmm.
and what have you. But I also wanted to be considerate of the fact that I've been on the other side of the table. I know what
Hmm.
it's like to be at the end of the meeting and you're
Yep.
ready to go. And then all of a sudden somebody
Somebody
starts
comes
talking for
up.
like 45
Hmm.
minutes. And you're like, damn, like, the missus is texting, like, are you on your way home yet? And like, nah, I'm sorry. Like, this is getting a little too long-winded here.
Yeah.
And being aware of your audience, because you
Mhm.
got, like, when what you have to say is important, you want to make sure that you talk short enough where you just hold their attention, and then that's it.
Yes.
Like, keep it moving. And I've
And then
learned a lot.
and then getting back to speaking out of emotion, and
Mhm.
this happens also in customer service situations, and when you speak out of emotion, you get angry and people will lose focus of what your original point was,
Mhm.
and then they'll focus just simply on you losing your temper or getting out of pocket, and then your point gets lost.
Yeah.
And we make that mistake all the time.
Yeah.
When you're just dealing with somebody, if you have a complaint, just a little food for thought. Stick to what you want to speak about. Don't let your emotions take you over, and don't let your emotions take control of the situation, because then your original point will be lost and
Facts.
all the focus will be on your emotions and how you lost control.
Facts.
Mm.
Speaking of, well, before we get into the emotions, how was your week?
Good week.
How's my uncle?
Your uncle's good. Appreciate that for asking. And yeah, he's just we got him in a rehabilitation center right now, and he's just day by day. He had a fall about a week and a half ago. Had to go to the hospital, but he's better. And yeah, we're just taking it day by day. He's out of the hospitals, which is the greatest thing,
Mm.
and it's just allowed me to, like, in the last week and a half, to give a little bit of focus on me, a little bit of
Mm.
self care, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it feels good. Everything's starting to happen and come to play.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's dope. That's
Yeah.
dope. It was actually a good week for me. It's been a good week thus far. There's some news that I'm waiting on.
Yeah.
Hopefully get tomorrow. And it's funny, I was having a conversation with my wife about, just kind of how the week has been and the news that I'm hopefully going to get tomorrow. And she was saying how, like, it has just been up until this point, I've not been myself. And she's like, the man that I married was like, you were one of the most ambitious and driven and motivated people that I've ever known. She was like, and that seemed to be getting lost. And I'll say I was at a not naming names, but I was in a professional situation where it just wasn't necessarily the environment. I wasn't happy in the environment.
Mhm,
And so I was being limited in my ability to do what I like to do.
mhm,
I love what I do for a living.
mhm,
And so when that was being taken away, and then I had the stuff going on in town, and I wasn't getting any support. In fact, they were being an obstacle in that. It was I didn't realize it, and she said like I was pretending well, but it was not. I just wasn't me. And she said this is really the first week in a while where she felt like I like the me that she knew
mhm.
was back.
Respect, man.
Yeah,
Yours is dealing with the town, but everything I've been going through, it's the
yeah,
same thing. It's like I have not been me. I know I haven't been me. Somebody literally asked me, "How are you doing?"
mm,
And I couldn't answer. I sounded
yeah,
like someone we know very well. Well,
yeah,
uh, uh, I couldn't answer because I didn't know how I was doing because I'm running. And I know that's the same way with you, taking care of
yeah,
family, you're doing everything, handling responsibilities. Um, my only argument with her would be your passion is shifted maybe a little bit toward here and what we're doing.
yeah, yeah.
I could see you putting that energy that you haven't been able to utilize in these other places. We're
Yeah.
putting it here
Yeah,
and
that's
we're
kind of
building
the
this.
that's just the person I have to find that thing.
Yeah, you gotta find
I
that
have to
outlet.
find that thing.
Yeah.
And it
You're a
reminds
closet
me
creative. Yeah. You're a closet
um
creative.
definitely a closet because it's not something I would ever admit.
No, you don't yeah. Yeah.
It actually reminds me of the IG reel that I sent you where the dude was talking about, he went to therapy for the first time and the lady asked him, or the therapist asked him, like you're here, you said, you're a good
Oh, for my
employee and
friends
my
and
friend, I'm a good
yes, my
friend and all
yeah.
that. But what is,
What are
what do
you
you
to
do for
you?
you?
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? I don't really know how to answer that question.
Yes.
I don't know what there is.
Mhm.
And it actually brought up another thought that the world that we are in is not the world that I was raised in. And so I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? Like one of the differences, I think, as you start to climb or you grow and evolve socioeconomically is understanding you enter these new spaces. The generation, and I would say, black people specifically are the only people who, at least racially, who have gone through this, but it's this every generation, it's different. It's a moving target. And so, what my parents are preparing me for is the world they know, not the world
That's
I'm about
coming.
to enter. Right. I'm the first one to go off to school and work in a white collar environment and do these things. So they can prepare me the best they can for the world they know.
From what they
But this
had.
world that I'm about to enter, where you're playing these small town political games, and you're in this white collar environment,
Wow.
and you're doing these things, you're not prepared for you, but you
Mhm.
don't know that until you get there. And I was thinking about my grandfather, the great Al Brown. I realized like he and I started to butt heads for a while, and I wasn't really like I knew my grandfather and what have you, but he lived in the West Coast and whatever. So I didn't really start spending much time with him until after my
Mhm.
mother passed away. But even more so after I already started college. And I realized looking back that he was trying to prepare me for some of that. But by that point in life, it's too late.
Mhm.
You kind of are who you are,
You're your
and you
own and you're
can't,
figuring it out.
right, you can't just teach them without telling them.
Mhm.
And I like looking at it, he was trying to kind of explain some things to me, and here are the fights that you probably
Mhm.
should fight and the fights that you
Back away
shouldn't
from
and
yeah.
whatever, instead of trying to fight all of them.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, I wasn't responsive to it. But also part of it is when you grow up in an inner city environment, like you think that is a sellout.
Facts. Yeah.
And so there's
Yeah.
that inner
Yeah.
inner struggle that you're going through that says like, man, if I like, am I, we are the only community that really prides itself on being hood and tough and whatever. Like you
Dumbing
are,
ourselves down.
yes,
Dumbing
you
ourselves
are
down.
less black
Yeah.
if you aren't fighting. And so that internal desire to always like throw your hands up and be ready for the physical action or the confrontation, it's like, and I always wonder and I admire, particularly white men who are able to just look at it and be like, okay, and just keep it moving.
Yeah.
Like they don't feel compelled to engage
To
in that
engage
way.
like that. Yeah.
And I don't know how to do that. I don't know, like I'm learning,
Mhm.
but I didn't really know how to, you have that engagement and being able to kind of pull yourself down and be like, this isn't like this person isn't even on my level. It's like, fighting with somebody ugly. Like, like you're like, I'm handsome, you're ugly. Like you have
You're not even in the ring
you
with
have
me.
nothing to lose by your face getting messed up. No,
Right,
dude,
right,
it's
right.
kind of like that. It's like where to engage and who is worthy of that energy. And so it was something that I thought about this past week that when it came to me, it was like, wow, damn. Like it's just, and we are constantly learning about ourselves. And when people talk about
Hopefully,
right.
we're constantly learning about ourselves.
And when people talk about like our growth or progress or
Mhm.
whatever, it's like, yeah, but you don't know what you don't know. Every
Yeah.
time you knock a door down
Yeah.
and you get in another space, that space is new
New.
and you're learning that fight.
Mhm.
And so you're trying to teach. I'm trying to teach my kids, but I don't even know the world. My kids
That
are
they're gonna
growing
be
up in an
facing.
environment that's different and
Yeah.
better than the one that I grew up in.
Because they're growing up with the telephones in
Yeah.
their right hand, and yeah, that's gonna be some. But you have a good handle on it. You have a good handle
I'm
on
trying.
things. Yeah, man. Yeah.
I'm trying.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. My mother prepared me in a way was she would come home from my mother would commute 88 miles one way to work, come back home late at night, tired and dealing with race and situations on her job. And
Mm-hmm.
she would come back and grab me and she's like, you gotta fight, you gotta get that paper, and
Mm.
you gotta work hard. And I'm getting shook, I'm like, I'm in high school. I'm like, I'm an athlete. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm okay, Ma. You gotta fight. You gotta be 2 steps ahead. You're a black man. I mean, you got 2 strikes against you. You gotta work double hard. And that's what they knew.
Yeah.
And it did prepare us. But then there were a lot of other fights that they didn't have any idea or any inkling about that we had to figure out for ourselves.
Right.
And you say, you talk about we're the only people that like we applaud being hood and dumbing ourselves down. There's a brother, I don't want to put his name out there, but it's not a negative thing, but it's like this brother grew up in East Providence, grew up with me and all of my friends, and came up very well, man. Educated, family did well. And that wasn't enough. He wanted to be hood.
Yeah.
And he dumbed himself
Yeah.
down. Incredibly smart brother. And that decision took him through some adversities and challenges. And he had to pay some repercussions for that. He's around now. He's doing very well. But he comes back and he'll talk about it himself. He was like, he goes, I had everything growing up, man. He lived in East Providence. My parents are educated, good friends, had all that stability. And I wanted to be hood.
Yep.
And I wanted to be a thug. And I wanted to punk people up and be a punk and be a
Yep.
bully. And it's like the idea that we make that decision and are comfortable with it, man. It's but you talk about, if you do certain things, you'll be a sellout. If you get that education, be a sellout. If you speak a certain way. I always say black people, we have to be bilingual.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be, we can be comfortable in our own situations. But then when you're in the corporate world, it's not selling out. It's just navigating racial waters.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Look at that. I see what you did. Yeah. So, and there was so when I was looking at, and it's kind of in the same scope, but so one thing I've never understood, like I am a sports fan, played sports, whatever, good enough. And brother played, professional athlete, whatever. And that was really like I was a fan
Mhm.
up until a certain point. And then the more I learned about the business side and some of his interactions and experiences, it hurt my ability to root for teams, and I started to root more for players.
Mm.
I want players to win. I want players to get their
Interesting.
money. I want
Yeah.
players to do whatever.
Yeah.
And so I had a discussion. It was a barbershop discussion, and I've never understood how people get so passionate about teams or people they don't know. And it ended up being a heated discussion, and I called him a D rider. And I kind of turned the tone of the conversation, but it's funny because I didn't realize, but I'm like, I don't really know what else, like, I don't know any other term for that.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I still don't. But it's like you're sitting there getting so excited and so passionate over somebody you don't know. And that is that is what Trump plays to. That is what I realized.
Yeah.
He plays to those people who are willing to get passionate about somebody they don't know.
What was he calling himself the first time around? The people's billionaire, or the poor man's billionaire,
Something like that, yeah, which doesn't even make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
at all. But people connected. Oh yeah, that's me. He's the poor man's
Yeah.
billionaire. Not like those other billionaires. He relates to me.
Right.
No,
Right, generational wealth.
they don't care about us. Yeah.
It's like I can't understand getting that passionate. And you see people following others. There was some local political stuff going on in this area, and I see people following the more left candidate kind of in the same way, where they're just like, posting his stuff everywhere and whatever. And I'm just like, number one, it's not even a close race. We need that. It's
Right.
not even like
Yeah.
he is so far ahead and whatever that it shouldn't even be all that relevant. Or like there's no need for people to do that, but I think people are so afraid of the other side, because that dude seems, from what everything I followed, is like is a book burner, very like, I don't understand why people are so afraid of the LGBTQ community, like all of a sudden they're gonna catch the gay. I don't get it, but that's like one of his passions, is to make sure nobody ever talks about the LGBTQ community ever.
Wow.
Because his kids might get infected with it. And I'm like, well, why are you all so like in love with anybody? Like, because I'm not, and it's corny to me.
It's like I said on this show before, we have to get back to a place where the R and the D and the I represents a political party,
Right.
not your mindset.
Right.
Because if it represents your mindset, then you're not thinking clearly.
Yeah. As like I said, I will never cry over the passing of somebody that isn't going to cry over mine. That's just it. So when I was passionate about sports or about the NFL, it was because my brother played.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was passionate about my brother. I wanted to see my brother win. Even when he played against the team that I rooted for.
Right. You want to see him
My
succeed.
brother win.
Yes.
And that's the only time that I was that passionate. In college, I'm passionate about where I went to school.
Sure.
But, you got like every Irish and every white kid in America, his first favorite team is Notre Dame. And it's like, you can't even get in. So like you're rooting for a school you can't get accepted to. You better dumb it down a little bit. Bristol community. So, so that's just a thing I've never gotten.
Nah, me neither, man. I've never been a fanatic.
Nah,
I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah,
like walking around with like somebody with another grown man's name on your back. When I was a kid, I did it. And like even maybe the throwback, when you had the throwback era of somebody who isn't playing anymore and is a legend, like it's kind of a tribute thing.
Yeah.
But like beyond that, like
walking around with someone's name like today, nah.
Right? And be like, what? What you doing? So yeah, that was just one of those things for me. So like I sent you the picture of that house.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad
house.
That wasn't next to you.
No.
That's why I said, is this your neighbor? I was like,
and if you drive by at night, like this house has like so much Trump everything. Every Trump paraphernalia you can find is in front of this man's house, or this family's house. And to the extent that they have a cardboard cutout of Trump right in the middle, and they have, if you drive by at night, they have lights.
It's lit up.
It.
Come on,
it is lit up, and so you can see the lights. It is that bad. Like, how do you feel that passionately about somebody else? Do
A
you
criminal.
hate? Do
A
you
criminal.
hate me? Do you hate my skin so much?
That you need to emphasize it this much.
Right. Because that's the only. It's not like, from a campaigning standpoint. And I think that's why so many traditional Republicans are crossing over in this
Mhm.
case, because it is like you're not running for anything. You're running against a bunch of stuff. You're
Yeah.
running because you hate
Hate that other stuff.
progress. You
So
hate
yes,
growth. You hate
that you don't even
cultural
care who
diversity.
the candidate is.
Right.
You just hate the idea of that stuff rising
Right.
and you quote unquote losing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it's about.
That's
And
all it's about, man.
and I am kind of afraid of what happens if he loses.
I'd rather deal.
And I've never.
I'd rather deal with that
Same.
than
What
if he
happens if he
wins. That's just
Facts.
it's just I'd rather.
Facts. If he loses, it probably, it'd be uncomfortable, maybe a little violent for a stretch. But if he wins, that is 4 years.
And then I don't know why I was even thinking about this today. And the people that support him,
Mhm.
they're gonna be running to everyone else. We didn't know it was gonna be like this. Oh my God, we thought he was just talking. Oh my God, this is, are you kidding?
One of my friends
Really
said
a
that.
dictator? I didn't know he was serious. It's like, no, we're here now. You help this. Get away
Yep.
from me.
One of my friends said he was like part of him, but not enough of him. I wants him to win just so they can see what it looks like now.
That's not.
But I'm not willing.
No,
to do
I'm
that.
not willing. No.
No.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
No.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's a sad place that we have gotten to, where this is where we are. And like, truly, for the first time, this is the first time I've ever felt that way about anything politically, where you really are looking at it for, maybe what is left of democracy.
Yeah. Yeah. Really. And I just can't. The hypocrisy of so many. And I will never get this out of my head, and I'll never stop saying it. Obama wore a beige suit.
Mhm. That's it.
He wore a beige suit. They wanted to impeach him. They wanted him out as president. And then this man with felonies and the things that he says, and he's not joking. And what's the big thing now? Now Trump is the candidate. He's at the top of the ticket, right?
Mhm.
But now you got this fool, one of your cousins in the Carolinas.
I don't even know his name. That's how unimportant he is. I don't even know his name.
The brother, you know who I'm
I know
talking
who
about?
you're
The
talking
black
about.
Nazi. And they insisted that he get off the ticket, right?
Yep.
They said, no, you can't run.
The
No,
real
no.
life Clayton Bigsby.
The real life. They insisted that he gets off the ticket. But yet that king is still on top of the ticket
Yeah,
with everything he's done.
it's always a double standard. Even a black Republican can't get it.
Mm-mm.
And he's not even going to acknowledge that, what he's dealing with has anything to do with,
No.
with his skin. He doesn't even.
You doesn't know. No.
He doesn't even realize that.
And then from what I heard, because I think DL Hughley was speaking on, shout out to that brother right there. He was talking about how the thing that they're getting him on, it's not even his comments.
Mhm.
It's not even the racist and homophobic and anti-Israel comments. It's that he was on the porn site.
Right.
It's that he was on the porn site
Right.
doing it. So now we're getting to morals. And again,
Mm.
look at the top of your ticket.
Mhm.
This is
Golden
much
showers
deeper.
and strippers.
Golden showers, strippers, things that Putin got on him. I mean, this is a lot deeper than a beige suit.
Yeah.
I don't understand people, man. I'd like, you want to win that bad. You don't. You want this to lose that bad. Growth, you want to lose.
You see that he was
Evolution, you want to lose.
he got interviewed by Andrew Schultz and Akash Singh. And I have my own feelings on that, because I feel like another case of working your way up in your career on the backs of the hip hop community, And then once you get there, you're sitting there yucking it up.
With
And
all,
regardless of what you may
yes,
say, and maybe
yeah,
he did ask him like a serious question here and there, but like I couldn't sit in that room
no,
with him with the things that he has said and done and laugh.
right.
Like that's not gonna happen.
And then you say you're down with this group that
Right.
got you to where you're at,
Right.
to sit in
So
that
we
room
got
with
you
them.
there,
Yeah,
sitting next to Charlemagne
yeah,
and the hip hop community,
yeah.
and you appealing to us and calling yourself the Hezi God and all of this stuff.
Mhm,
You know, for the black community,
mhm.
the hip hop urban community, you
I'm
were that
down.
guy.
Yeah,
And now you want to interview Trump.
yeah,
And nobody's gonna sit there and call that shit out. Nobody
Yeah.
be like, oh, because they're just gonna give him a pass. But
Yeah.
he, as I say all the time, like he's white first. And so it's like, it's okay. Because if I did it, oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm. You
sell
will sell out. Yep. Yeah.
and that is the difference.
Yeah.
That is the difference. Like
Mm-hmm.
as we start to, because I want people to understand when they whether they listen or watch or whatever, I want people to understand what privilege means. You know, that is always the point that people get so hung up on. That privilege means that you have something better or whatever. And it just means that this is not a factor for you.
For you. Mm-hmm.
Color is not a
Mhm.
factor for you ever. You can still be poor. You can still have struggle. You can still have challenges.
If you're stopped by the police on a traffic citation, on a traffic issue, it's never a question of whether you're going to get home that night.
Right.
Never.
Right. You know that your color
Mhm.
had nothing to do. The fact that it's at least has to be in our head, and we have to be
Yeah.
aware of it in
You gotta
our
be
actions
cognizant,
and
yeah.
how we conduct ourselves
Mhm.
is the privilege.
The privilege. Yeah. You don't have
worry-
to
that
deal
is
with that.
not one of them
Yes.
for you.
Please
That's it.
understand this. If you get nothing else from this, please understand that. That's what the privilege is
Yes.
that we're talking about.
That's it.
That you don't have to worry about these things.
That's it.
And so when you hear someone with, oh, why are they always talking about? Why are they always there? That's all they talk about. It's on us all the time,
Mhm.
all of the time.
Yep. And hell, oh, by the way, just as a side, we're gonna be back. We got some stuff going on, so we're gonna be back next week too.
Yeah,
We're gonna
coming
be
back
next
at
week.
you.
This is gonna be the shortest, gap in between sessions. But as we get going, this is kind of one of those things that's we have lives, interviews.
Mhm.
This is certainly not something that we're doing to pay our bills yet.
Yeah.
But if you are on this, I did put the video of me before the select board on. I put it on our IG, so
Cool.
it is there. Go watch it. And form your own opinion. I felt good. And before we were coming on here, I was like, I don't really want to brag or talk myself up or anything, but I felt good.
Good. And you should. I was going to force you to brag a little bit anyway. I was going to move you in that position anyway.
There were components that I left out. There was one example is there was a discrimination report that was done or investigation that was done to one of the members of the board and how they were treating the town administrator. I was interviewed. 2 other members of the board were interviewed, and it was conducted by the law firm that has since started, that has been treating her wrong. And I have not seen that report, but I'm also no longer on the board. But from what I understand, they left out my interview. They left out some other interviews and just determined that he had there was that race was not a factor or discrimination was not a factor. And like, I got that vibe when I got interviewed.
Sure.
And like, I see where this is going. Which is whatever, but good luck to you. So as we've talked about, one of my pastimes is enjoying Instagram reels and the entertainment and comedy of that. And what is up with cookout invites? Have you seen or heard about this?
No.
So anytime like a white person seasons their food, so it's not funny. I'm not joking.
Wait, you went from cookout invites
Yes.
to when white people season their food.
Listen, anytime a white person seasons their
Oh my
food,
gosh, I don't know where this is going.
dances remotely on beat, isn't super stiff, says something cool or open-minded or progressive or whatever. If you scroll in the comments, you will see it's somebody will say they get a cookout invite. You are invited to the cookout.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
first of all, when did it become so easy to like get invited to my cookout?
Just because of a comment.
Just because you happen to put a little paprika on, on your mac and cheese?
You know who gets an invitation to the cookout?
Me.
Daryl Hall and John Oates, Michael McDonald.
I'll invite John B. Anybody, like if a baby was made to
I can
your
invite
music,
John B to the
if a baby
cookout.
was made to your music,
I
like,
can invite John B to the cookout.
yeah, there's a handful, but it's like
that's what we're talking about.
right.
People who put in the work.
Right. There was a time when Andrew Schultz would have gotten invited, but
Nah. He
Gary
can smell
Owen
it.
would get invited.
Oh man, Gary Owen's throwing it.
Yeah,
Bill Burr get invited. Absolutely.
I couldn't show a guy, seeing how Gary Owen has been in the streets, boy. Gary Owen is that friend that you do not, that your wife like makes you check in. Like
we go to Gary Owen to say, can they come to the cookout?
Yeah.
We'll leave that up to him.
Gary Owen's that friend that
he's
your
that
wife
dude.
makes you leave your location on when you hang out with Gary Owen.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a wild thing. Like, I don't understand how this became such a thing. This generation is
so
wonderful.
quick to accept. And so look,
Yeah.
I love the idea of bridging and, for lack of a better phrase, eliminating racism or attempting to. But in the same token, you don't let everybody and anybody in so quickly.
Yeah.
It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be at the cookout.
Yeah, there is a struggle that has come, and with that invitation,
Mm-hmm.
there is a
for real
that has come with that invitation.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I was told my life is good for somebody who has had struggle.
It's not supposed to be.
It's not by a white woman who is a liberal, who can who supposedly understands because she has a half Lebanese son with a disability.
Oh well, then of course,
right. So I know what it's like to be you.
Yes.
And was mad because I had made a comment on an event that was happening for the disabled. And it wasn't like putting that down. It was saying like, you guys do a great job putting on events for these things, but how come you haven't done anything for Juneteenth or Black History Month yet? I was like, I don't understand what was wrong with that sentiment. Like, it wasn't, she ran with it like, oh, you're putting it down and you're saying these events don't matter. I didn't say they didn't matter. I just said, why can't we have one too? Well, I don't get it. But not worth any more of the sentiment.
No. Don't question things, Leon.
No. I think I put too much energy, put too much energy into understanding.
Yeah.
Like, even in these conversations, I don't think people get that we are talking about race and injustice and privilege and what have you in a manner or with the intent of not separating.
Right.
But so that we can understand, so that everybody can understand, to make it easier for us to come together.
Yes.
Instead of,
we're not here crying, we're not here finger pointing, we're not right. Exactly.
I love that.
Love it. Struggle and all. I wouldn't change a thing.
I love it.
I wouldn't change a thing.
I want you to understand why I feel the way I do.
Right.
And I feel like
this is where it comes from.
Understand. It makes it easier to tear those walls down. Understand the differences. If ever Israel and Palestine was able to understand each other's perspective, walls will come down when that happens.
It goes back to, again, everything is listening.
Right.
It's all about listening. People say communication. People are so mistaken in thinking communication is just you talking, getting your point across. That's not communication. That's you talking. Communication is speaking, listening, processing, and then speaking back. It seems very easy. It seems very basic. And you're like, of course, Neil, well, duh. But no, it's not. People can't understand that.
No.
It's so you're not communicating. Yes, I am. I'm speaking. I'm saying what but you're not listening.
Right.
Listening is a beautiful thing,
You're
man.
listening long enough to respond.
Yes.
You're listening until you find that point.
So that pause,
and then it's
to
like
interject.
you're gonna jump in.
you missed the step of processing.
Right. Like you could literally, an example I used to use when I was younger, I would say, like, I could sit there and be talking to you and be like, kiss my ass. Now, everything I just said after kiss my ass, I absolutely love you. And if you listen to the words that I just said, I am going to give you $1 million. And then they respond, well, how dare you tell me?
Everything
How dare you? Right.
Yeah.
Stop. And I had a teacher once who he would give, it was a math professor, and he gave an exam. And it said within the instructions, it says, if you read these instructions from beginning to end, you will know to sign your name at the top of the page, sign and date, and hand it in. And said, and you will get 100, you will get an A or 100 or whatever. And then continued on and whatever.
Yep.
And there were a handful of us. Luckily enough, I had actually started it, went back and looked, and saw it, and was like, word.
Oh, wait.
Bing,
nice.
handed it in. And you see all these people. And one of the reasons I actually went back and looked is because I saw a couple people get up and hand it in right away. And
they're not smarter than me. I know it.
And you know the room, you know, like who is and whatever. So I'm like, okay. Yeah. So then I started looking back, like, am I missing something? Should this be easier? Kind of one of those. And then I saw that and was like, oh word.
I got it. Yeah.
But you still had a bunch of people, I would say more than half the class
that did the whole test.
Did the whole test. Stayed there and came out and talked about how hard it was. And then I told them, I was like, instruction. And they're like, nah, you're playing. I was like,
read the instructions. That's awesome. I love that.
Bombed that joint.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's how it works. You know, you have to be willing to listen, which was why even particularly when I was on the select board, people would comment, every chair has their own style. And if you notice when I was talking, she kind of jumped in while I was talking. And, you know, it was, well, you're making some wild accusations. And that was when I, felt like
nope, these aren't accusations. These are factual. I have the emails, blah, 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 blah.
But you have access to more information than I do. And yes, I am insulted because I have better stuff to do with my time, like spend time with my family. But you know, but that was kind of like when I became chair, people would, you know, at least comment and appreciate the fact that like I would listen.
Yeah.
I would let you finish. And I would let you like go long enough where like there would be a silence between when you stop.
Yeah, there's a break. There's a clear break. Right. Yeah.
And because I wanted to make sure you were done. And so like not a lot of people do that. But you know, as somebody who sells for a living, like it's more important for me to listen.
Yes.
Than for me to talk.
Then yes. That's what people don't understand about communication.
Right.
I'm taking this off of the politics and more of a interpersonal relationships as well. That's been if a woman has asked me, you know, what are you looking for and what do you want? I say, I want two things, honesty and communication. Now, that's easy. And I'm like, I can tell this isn't going to work right now. If you didn't even process what I said. So there's ineffective communication right there. And I'm like, it's not that easy.
Yep.
It's easy if you want to apply yourself and be like, okay, I want to make this work. And you take those steps. It could be easier. But if you just think it's like that, it's nothing. Then you don't understand this.
Yep.
You don't understand.
And an understanding, adding on to that with regard to relationships, and appreciation for the fact that people respond to their emotions differently. Everybody is different.
Yeah.
And you know, with respect to being a guy, one of the things that I think women have to be better at appreciating or understanding is that when men communicate, when we share, when we open up, your response dictates whether we share
and open up again. Yes.
If you, and I understand, like sometimes emotionally you can't help it, but if you cry, we are less likely to share again because you made it about you.
And you don't
intentionally or not.
And you don't have the option of running to your girlfriends or your people and be like, oh, he's not listening. He doesn't want to talk. No, we tried.
Yeah.
We made that attempt.
Right.
but you couldn't continue the conversation. You broke it down. It
Right.
became emotional
If I get punished
for
in any
opening up
way
and
for what I
speaking.
said, if you get mad at what I said, because flip the script, I'm going to absorb what you said.
Mhm.
And if I respond to it, then it's going to be, well, I was sharing and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And how dare you? And
Yeah.
it's just wrong and whatever. And this is where the double standard starts to come in. Like, double standards aren't just one way.
No.
And, this is one of them where, like, you have to take what we give you, how we give it.
Hmm.
It's like, if, we hold so many things in as men, because if we're too emotional, then we're a bitch, or
Yep.
we're soft.
Yep.
If we're not emotional enough, then we're mean and we're hard, or we're misogynistic, or whatever it is. And so when we finally let it out, a lot of times it just comes pouring out.
Pouring out. Yeah.
It might come with
Yep.
curses, it might
Mhm.
come with screams, it
Mhm.
might come however. But instead of listening or paying attention to how it's delivered, and whether it's only delivered in the way that you can take it,
Yeah.
it's, you don't get to dictate how a
Mhm.
man deliver, how we
Mhm.
deliver it to, how we deliver our feelings.
Yeah.
These are our feelings.
Yeah, I had a woman not too long ago. She said, "Well, I said something to her. She said, well, you should have said it like." I said, "No, there's no we
Right.
should have said it. I said the way Neil says it.
Right.
I didn't call you out your name. I wasn't disrespectful.
Right.
I just stated something. Well, you should have said no. This is how I say it.
Like, nah, son,
I was effective in my communication. You understood what I
yeah.
said. There's no, don't try to dictate how I say something.
Yeah. And when we drop these little jewels here,
And these are jewels, yo.
listen,
Yeah,
listen,
please, because these,
they will help you.
yes,
They will help you.
yes.
We are giving you like a bird's eye view
Mhm.
into the perspective of a man,
Yeah,
and the average man. Of
Yeah.
course, there is always nuance.
there's always
And
exceptions.
we are
Yeah.
speaking in generalities,
Mhm.
not in specifics. So since we're gonna come back next week, gonna keep the point short. But one more thing I actually wanted to talk about is the feeling that, because it is there, so the balance of social media in particular, I would say more Facebook than anything else, which I understand. Like, if you use Facebook, you're kind of viewed as old and whatever. Um, but it is, younger people, I think, aren't as inclined to use Facebook.
Mm-mm.
They're more
IG.
TikTok, IG, whatever. But the need to comment on, because it appears in your screen, or in your feed, but it is from somebody else's page. You chose to subscribe or whatever to view that
Mhm.
person's page. You can take it out or whatever. I have a dude that eventually I had to just unfriend him, but like, where I had to just block his stuff from coming in
Okay.
because it was so ignorant.
Mm.
But you don't have to comment, and don't make it about you. I tell a story about my experience. I am not telling you so you can tell me your story and take away from my experience. I am telling you for whatever reason. But once you tell me your story, and I get, maybe you're trying to show me that you relate,
You can
or
relate.
whatever, but you can't. My my situation is my situation, and maybe you have something similar, but you are not me. So your
No.
experiences leading up to it are not the same, and your experiences after are not the same.
Gosh.
Stop making it about you. Read it, absorb it. You can respond like, well said, job, or even I disagree,
Mhm.
depending on what it is. But I don't want to hear your whole story. I don't give a damn. I'm not gonna read it. I'm not gonna and if it's too many words, I'm definitely not gonna read it. I'm just gonna skip over that shit.
I'm almost trying
I
not
might
to
even
touch
delete
this. I'm trying not to touch this.
Touch it.
I'm trying not to. Well, with me, it's not so much posts,
Yeah.
but real life and
Yeah, I know.
IRL.
You have no idea how long it took me to understand that.
No, but no, you're absolutely right. There are just people that whenever you, again, the sharing part is a big thing.
Yeah.
If we get to that point of sharing, don't make it about you. I mean, I could talk about this in terms of theater, where I've been a part of a production. We do a show, and then somebody will come on stage, and then they'll want to talk to the audience that has nothing to do with the show.
Mhm.
They're just an administrator. They want to come and put their spin on things. It's like you're taking away from the experience everyone else just felt
Mhm.
by adding your stuff and putting your thoughts on it. I was dealing with an individual that I would give them compliments. I was showing them gratitude. They would sit, listen, process, and their choice was to come back and be insulting and mean and condescending. You're laughing because you know, you know, and it left me more baffled because than anything I've
Mhm.
ever experienced. I said, I can't even show you praise.
Yeah.
I can't even be thankful and give you gratitude because you're going to take that and flip it and be insulting. I don't want to deal with the insults in this right now because I'm going through some heavy stuff.
Right.
So I don't want to play
Right.
that game with you.
Right.
I and so I can't even compliment you. It's the strangest situation I've ever been in my entire life, man.
A very good example of that, actually, I will use
Excuse me.
children. When talking about your children, if I tell you a story about you ask me how my kids are, because I am not one to force my kids on you. And you can tell, you know, firsthand, I do not force my kids on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I was single with no kids for long enough to know that the average person does not give a shit.
Right.
They don't care that little Johnny did whatever.
Oh, they're definitely not gonna care as much as you.
Right. So I am
Yeah.
not gonna now. If you ask, I will tell.
Yeah.
But if I tell you and you have a kid and you want to share a story, fine. I respect that. So be it. That's great. Don't take away from it, but you can share.
Yeah,
whatever. You're
absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was much younger, before I remember I had my first niece, my niece Samaya. And I was so excited, you know, to be an uncle and whatever. She was so beautiful. And I would take her like on a Saturday and bring her all over the place and whatever. And I would talk about, people would talk about their son and daughter and whatever. And I would say, oh, yeah, my niece. And I remember this one guy took me aside, this guy, James. And he was like, wait, I don't know. He was like, I'm going to tell you, I don't care. He was like, now listen, I respect that it's your niece. He was like, and I'm very happy for you. He was like, but understand it's not the same thing. And I was like, yeah, but I love her so much. And he said, someday you'll have kids and you'll get it. He said, but just understand, he was like, try to tone that down. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And like we had that kind of relationship.
Yeah. Where he could come to you like that, right?
Now, time, you know, years later, I have children. And when I tell you a story of my kid, and you want to tell me a story of your cousin, your niece, nephew, grandchild,
You understand what that
auntie,
dude was
whatever,
talking about?
right? It's like, no, that's not yours.
That's not the
That's not yours.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, don't take away from my moment
Mm-hmm.
where I am sharing, especially if you have kids, you should know better anyway,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not yours.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't do that because you are creating a situation where now I don't like that kid already.
Wow. Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
when we are related. If you are my
Oh.
aunt or uncle, and I am not calling out anybody specifically, like this is not where I'm going with that, but I'm saying, like, hypothetically, you are an aunt, uncle, cousin, whatever, and we have similar things. And I sit there and I tell you the story of, you know, my son, who happens to be named after me. And then you tell me a story about our mutual cousin or whatever. Like, it's not one, it's not a competition.
Right.
And two, that's not yours.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't need like that story. You just took away the story of me telling you about my child in my family and made it about you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, allow people to have their moment. People want their moment.
There's a lot of that out there, man.
Like
There's a lot of that out there.
I happen to be one who like typically will just tune that out. But I know other people who take that more personal.
Mm-hmm.
I am, you know, personally, I am just one who will be like, yeah, okay. Like, and I'll let you kind of go through your story and whatever. And I know it's going to come every time we talk and whatever. And that's cool. I just let you be you. But I know people very close to me who take that more personally. And it's more painful. It's more hurtful to them that you are taking that away from them. And so, like, I'm sharing this to, as people like think about that, because it's like the average person does not care. They're going to pretend that they care, but what you're also going to get is less engagement from them.
hmm
The more you do that, the less they will engage.
One of the most painful things I've had to go through recently was, again, I put my dog down,
Hmm.
having moved back here. She was a Leonberg. Her name was Destiny. She was supposed to pass at 8 or 9. She made it to 17. It can't get much more personal than that.
Hmm.
Person I was around, we used to make it about yourself. It's like how could somebody make that about themselves?
Hmm.
3 words: join the club.
Wow. Now,
That's what was told to me.
to juxtapose that, when I was talking to you after that happened,
Come on.
and I
Come on.
mentioned
Come
something
on.
about Max,
You
what
talk-
did I do?
You said to me, you said, yo, cuz I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I know you just lost your dog. I was like, nah, man, you good. I was like, I appreciate that.
Right.
But you good. You could talk about it.
Right.
But yeah, exactly. That's the complete juxtapose
Yes.
of what I was saying. Yeah.
It's that
Yeah.
self-awareness, that
Yep.
emotional awareness,
Awareness. Yeah.
just give a shit
Yeah.
about somebody other than yourself. Because that's what I
Empathy.
feel like it is. You just don't give a shit.
You don't give a shit.
You don't give a shit about anybody but yourself.
We're a
And so
season
it
without
has to be about you.
we're a season without empathy, like
Yeah.
I've never seen before. And that's very sensitive to me, because personally, for me, I'm an empath, and I know I am. I a lot of times I wish I wasn't.
Mhm.
Um, there are times where that will navigate my movements, and sometimes I just want to look out for Neil, and it's like, no, but you hear things and things come your way, and it's like, wow. And as an empath, it's like you get right into that situation and that mindset. The difference between sympathy and empathy. Somebody told me one time, they said the Republicans are sympathetic and the Democrats are empathetic. I was like, oh,
Close.
I see where you're going with
Right.
that. Yeah, I can see where you're going with that.
I have a cousin who reminded me. This kind of reminded me of. So I was talking to them. They are currently incarcerated. So free Octavian. I don't know if you remember Octavian. He used to spend time. He was really close to my mother. He was Curtis, then went away in the military, changed his name, what have you.
Yeah.
So, but we were talking, and he was talking. We write from time to time,
Mhm.
and he was saying how people were worried about me, like when I was younger after my
You
mother
worry about
passed
you?
away. Yeah, and he was like, William, he was like, your brother had football, and whatever, and something to grasp onto, and we were really worried about you. And I'm like, worried about me for what? Like, what was I doing? Like, and one of the things, I love my, like, no, everybody knows I love my brother. Like when I was single and dating, like it was like my brother was first.
Mhm.
It'll be like, nah, sorry, shorty. Like I'm with my
Mhm.
brother. My
Mhm.
brother's playing,
Mhm.
whatever it is. Like life shut down,
Sure.
and it's never been competitive. But I almost feel like people tried to create that narrative because of how successful he was in football and
course.
whatever. I mean, like my brother is literally one of the most athletic people I've ever known in my
Mhm.
life. And there are NFL coaches who have said that about him. And so there will never be a point where I feel as though I am competing against him. We win together. He wins, I win. And I know that my brother is one of the most proud people of anything I do as
Mhm.
well. I know we have that dynamic, we
Yes.
have that
Yeah.
relationship. So, but when somebody says like, yeah, we were worried about you, he was doing this, and he had football, and he had something to keep him ground. Like I was out there, like shooting people up, like I was Omar from The Wire or something. And it's like, minus the sexuality component of it. Like go like I was Weebay from The Wire.
Right. Omar, man, come on with it.
But it's just like, like at no point in when I look back on my life, at no point in my life was I not at least somewhat studious and going to school and whatever. And
I got this face because I'm completely
right.
baffled.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I'm like college, high school. I was like, we've always been in touch. I was
Right.
like, I've always had like a pulse on what he's doing. I was like, I don't remember any time where I'm like, man, I'm worried about Leon. I've never, that thought hasn't come across my mind.
No.
It really
Right.
hasn't.
So I don't know who the we was, but it's just like
Right.
it's also it's one of those things where it's just like, not listening, not paying attention to what's around you, or getting kind of caught up in
Caught
your
up.
own stuff, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
even your own feelings of where you are focused.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so funny to me how people look at things and just create their own narrative around it.
Well, we grew up in that place of, pinning cousin, whether you know it or
Yes.
not,
Yes,
whether it's
it was never
conscious or
malicious. It was never
subconscious, but
intentional.
you
None of
pin,
that.
oh, this one's doing it. Oh, so and so is doing this.
Mhm.
It's like now you're creating an adversarial situation, and the people you're talking about, they might not even know it.
Right, right.
They might not even know it, and
People dislike each other because their parents
everyone
did stuff.
around them
Right.
is navigating these little tensions and these little conflicts, and the two people involved don't even know it.
Have no idea.
And they're just trying to be related.
Yep.
And it's like, nope, you've been pinned against each other and you're not even aware of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So what you got going on over the next week? So we'll keep it short.
I'm searching out theaters, getting back into this acting thing here locally. Get some writing under my creativity has been stunted, and I'm looking to just pump some life back into that. Met with a couple people this week, and just to talk over some things and just put some things down, and I'm excited about moving in that direction. Like I said, it just in all of these weeks, as we spoke offline, it's like I've just started to take care of myself a little bit, just a little bit in this last week and a half, and it's nice.
If you're following, watching, listening, and you have any connection to, if you're in the New Bedford area, the Zeitarian, if you're in the Boston area, the Wang Schubert, whatever they're called now, because I know they've been naming rights and whatever. If you have any connection to theater in any way, reach out. Navigating Racial Waters at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Boom, easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's about it, man. No plans. Just take it as it comes. How about you?
What I got going on? Well, let's see. Well, I'll be following up on whatever transpired
From the
Tuesday.
meeting? Yes. Yep.
And at some point you might be hearing me, in the mornings talking about, particularly about things that should matter, or things that matter to the community, I'm in, to the greater New Bedford community. On the WNB1 morning show, Mags in the Morning. DJ Mags in the background behind this this oceanic view got going on right here with the lighthouse. And because something that I have realized living in this area is, first of all, people in the suburbs have this view of New Bedford. And New Bedford is actually like, there are parts of New Bedford that are absolutely beautiful. And it's a waterfront city, and it's up and coming. You got the train coming in, commuter rail, all of that. But they like to take credit for a lot of things, and I feel like New Bedford doesn't have the political influence that it should. And I think there's a certain degree of humility, and there's also a degree of almost fear of, like, not necessarily realizing how awesome you are, or appreciating, or being afraid to brag about yourself. And one component I will give to people is, the town of Fairhaven likes to talk about your property. The school department in particular will talk about your property value went up, because of the improvements in the schools, in the school department, and whatever. And and I'm sure that's partially true. But the single greatest impactor of property values to any suburb is the metropolitan area around it. So if you live in the greater New Bedford area, in one of those suburbs, and most of these suburbs are super racist anyway, you need to be grateful to these people, and you need to pay a little bit more deference to the people in these areas, because the improvements to New Bedford have impacted your property value more than anything.
Come on.
And so, well, I am not afraid, and I am willing to make sure that people know. And, I want people to hold their head up. And so, in this area has really adopted me. But I am also excited because if everything works out and I get this offer, this job offer, one, it'll be so dope. It'll be kind of a really big point in my career, building a sales org and what have you. But it will also give me the opportunity to put some time and give back to Providence,
Hmm.
because they are headquartered in Providence. And it would be, it'll allow me. That's something that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
haven't really had, working in tech, I haven't had the opportunity to be back in Providence. There's no tech in
Right,
Providence. There's
right,
no
right.
opportunity for me to work in Providence. And so the opportunity to actually do that, and do more than what I've done, will make me really happy.
Hmm.
To be able to talk to kids who grew up where I grew up and went where I went, and kind of face some of the exact challenges that I faced.
Hmm.
So I'm excited for that. So hopefully that transpires over the next no, next couple weeks.
Good, good,
And,
good, good,
we'll
good.
see,
Keep them thoughts and prayers and good feelings and good energy open to that.
no doubt.
Yeah.
With that, everybody again, understand, if nobody has told you today, I love you. I don't even have to know you, but if you haven't done it, if you haven't given me a reason not to love you, I love you. And
Love and respect you
yeah,
so you can love and respect yourself. For real.
bars,
Yeah.
bars. But y'all be good.
On the current.
Until next week. Yes. So when you see the name change, if you look for Navigating Racial Waters and you don't find it, look for On the Current. It'll be one of those. I already changed the name of the Spotify link.
Okay.
So that one is already changed. All right.
And navigating racial waters is more of the mission statement. It hasn't gone anywhere. Thought process still is. It's just more of the mission statement rather than the title.
Exactly. Shout out again to DJ Buck.